Hi, Ron LeGrand here. Before we get started with the podcast, I thought you might want to know that I recently recorded a 90-minute online training about how we make so much money today in the terms business. That's on pretty houses in pretty neighborhoods, not the junk houses that we have to go rehab or wholesale. I go through step by step on exactly what I and thousands of my students are doing right now to make the fastest and the easiest money in real estate without using your money or credit. If you're interested in doing just that, go to thementorpodcast.com/free training. See you there.
Welcome to the Mentor Podcast, where the most highly motivated entrepreneurs come to get their weekly dose of financial stability with host Ron LeGrand, as well as other nationally recognized thought leaders who will teach you how to get, grow, and protect your wealth.
Well, hello, everybody. This is Ron LeGrand. Welcome to another episode of the Mentor Podcast. I have with me Jerry Green today from Dayton, Ohio. I understand it is pretty cold there today, and I've made it very clear we have a couple of houses still available here in Florida if he wants to move, but I haven't heard any indication of that so far. I'll keep working on him. I told Jerry I used to live in Springfield. My wife is from Springfield, about 20 miles from Dayton. I lived there for 10 years, and then I got out, so you can. All right. So listen.
I've been working on my wife on that, Ron, but she... I ask my wife out all the time, but I keep getting no's.
I see. Oh, okay. Well, anyway, Jerry, I'm going to let them, you tell them about you. You know a little bit about more you than I do. So I want to start, though. I met you in a mastermind meeting, which you and I both go to and both pay for, I might add. And this mastermind meeting is a room full of both real estate investors and teachers and so forth. And then I got to talking to you and learn more about. And then I found out you were in Dayton, which kind of hit home with me as well, because I know price ranges of houses in Dayton were very low. And I also told you that is where I did my very first boot camp in 1991 was Dayton, Ohio. We had 9 people on the bus. Cents. All right. So tell me about what you do and a little about your background. And then I got some questions for you.
Sure. Well, thank you, Ron. Thanks for having me on here today. You know, I started in the business back in 1994. So when I started in the business, Ron, too, I actually lived in Springfield myself.
Oh.
So that's where I lived. In fact, I started in the business then. Prior to being in real estate business, I was in the actual electrical contracting business with my father there in Springfield. And what happened on that, we were doing a lot of work for a lot of general contractors, and we were, basically worked as a small subcontractor. We had a large general contractor that ended up pretty well folding up and owed our small company at that time a little over $60,000. And back in the 90s, and we weren't able to recover from that. Ended up going bankrupt. And what happened on that, I started trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and saw advertisement about some local real estate seminars. One of the first ones I went to was Charles Gibbons, if you remember back in the days.
Remember well.
Yep. And then I think one of the second ones I went to was yours. So, and I just looked at it and I said, wow, there's, I just looked at the potential and I thought, everybody else wanted me to go out and get another job again. And I just made a decision I wasn't going to do that and decided to get into the business of wholesaling. So I started wholesaling in 94 and then merged into the buy, fix, and flip model, doing retail flips. Started getting into doing some multifamily buildings, small ones, and then single family rentals. Built that up. Eventually, I did get in a little bit of commercial. I've done some Family Dollar stores, General Dollar. Worked with some different investors around the country on that. Built that up. Ron, and I think I shared with you before, and this was in the year 2000. My wife and I in Springfield, we had a really pretty good business going there and working out of our home. and we were planning on having a baby, and we were excited about that. And that, we found out that she was pregnant, and then within a few months there, we found out she started having some complications. My son ended up being born premature, but we were able to get him the help he needed. But we found out too at that time, this was in the year 2000, my wife found out the day he was born that she had cancer.
Ooh.
And so it was a, celebrating and then devastated within a few hours. This was living in Springfield. We left, we had to instantly start getting help for her and treatment over in Columbus, Ohio. She actually was treated at Children's Hospital because it was a childhood cancer called Wilms tumor. It was a kidney cancer. And, just it kind of bring that all together, Ron. It was a tremendous amount of time, a lot of stuff that happened, but she went through a major surgery there in December of 2000. And then with complications, she ended up being in the hospital for 4 months straight. And we had just built a brand new home. I ended up leaving the brand new home there in Springfield, and I ended up moving into the Ronald McDonald house over in Columbus, Ohio. And that's where I lived for 4 months. We got her home the next year in 2001 there. And when we got her home, we had about 2 months of time where she was bedridden there. And then we found out the cancer returned already. And she passed away in June of 2001. And 10 months after her son was born. So, I share this because I had built the business with her, since 94, and we built it up and had a really good whole system going. And, not only, obviously life partner, business partner. And then we went into a position where I had to, really for about almost 2 years, I was just trying to get functional again. And then, again,
hard to understand. Mm-hmm.
So I got to the point where I did get remarried, ended up moving to Germantown, which is part of Dayton, Ohio right now. That's where I live currently, and rebuilt everything again in the business to the point where I got a big renovation company going. We were doing a tremendous amount of rehabs. And the thing about that, Ron, though, I built this thing up and I really built up a business that I hated. So, I had a whole team. I had, probably 15 people, 4 full-time project managers. And something I didn't enjoy at all. It was just wasn't what I was doing. And then I realized that I had started looking at this differently, Ron. And one of the big things I started looking at differently was I was really just being a deal chaser. Everything was about me constantly all the time. And it was just wearing me out. And I just said, I'm going to stop this. And I really wasn't sure what to do, but I realized I had to change it. And I really started looking at this as a business and real estate just becoming more of a product or service. Made that switch. It was not easy. It was like turning the Titanic around. So it was a major project here. But what we've done is we really just merged into the position where we focused on retooling everything, where I started firing myself from different positions, building the proper team, proper processes, and then build up a system, which fast forward today, I have a lady who runs things for me, which you got to meet Ashley here weeks ago. And she runs my company. She actually runs it remotely from New Mexico. And we do majority of our business in Ohio here. And we're pretty well virtual, but we're really focused right now. 95% of our deals are done wholesale. And we basically just created a machine here that's constantly cranking out properties every month. The nice thing about it, it's got me down to the point where I'm only involved in meetings and not involved in the operational side at all anymore.
All right. Well, let's start from what you just said. Just for the record, the Titanic didn't turn around, it sank. and you didn't. Bad example. So where are you at today? About how many deals you doing in a year today?
We'll average it's in our neighborhood of about 15 to 20 in a month.
In a month?
Yeah.
Okay. Are those all wholesale deals or are they mixed?
Pretty well. Most of them are wholesale, Ron. We will keep some of them, but majority of them are wholesale.
All right. And what's the average profit on a wholesale deal?
Those are in our marketplace. We're averaging somewhere between about 8 to 10,000 on most deals in that realm. And then some of them, obviously, we do better on. I mean, we hit some that are 50, some are 20, but average is right around that 8 or 10,000 range.
All right. Well, I'll let our listeners do the math on that, Jerry. So what does your team look like? How many?
So currently today, what I have is I have COO Ashley. I have 2 acquisitions reps full-time. We actually have a third one that's getting ready to come on here shortly. Then we have someone that handles all our dispositions, transaction coordinating, and then full-time assistant as well.
Okay. So your whole thing is about 5 or 6 people.
Yes. We basically run typically with assistants and some support. We're typically running around about 7 people total.
Okay.
With some support.
And are they all on the payroll, or are your acquisitionists paid as they produce?
They are paid as they produce.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a small base on things that we work from, Ron, but it's a very small base after they get out of their probationary period. Okay.
How long is their probationary period?
So it's really, we look at it more of our training period, which is typically 90 days.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's how we work off of that.
All right. So your acquisitionists really do most of the work. They're the ones that follow up on the leads and go get contracts. By the way, do you go get contracts anymore, or do you get them all virtually?
We do 95% of our deals are done over the phone. Every once in a while, we'll have someone that cannot or just doesn't have the means to be able to do a contract, maybe technology wise or something. They just don't understand how to do it. And we might have someone, either one of the sales team members will go out, or we'll have like a runner or somebody like that will get it done.
When you say over the phone, are you referring to over the internet?
Exactly. So
you send them a contract. Do you send it with DocuSign?
Yeah, typically we use a platform called Loop. We like it a little better than DocuSign.
Loop?
Loop, yep.
Or DocLoop, D-O-C?
No, Loop.
Okay.
Yep.
So in other words, you send it to them and they can sign it right online, fire it right back to you. All right.
Correct.
So Are you guys on the phone with them while they're doing that?
We are. That's something different that we do. We put it this way. We used to do it, Ron, where I would have the team send the contracts, but and let them execute it when they could. But the problem was we started that created a whole monster of its own, because we started chasing contracts then, and then trying to get them back in. So what we do now is it's kind of interesting. The way this all came about was years ago. I was on a call with an insurance rep. And an insurance rep said, "Hey, Jerry," says, "I want to go over this insurance with you." It was for, I think it was like medical policy or something I was going through. And he says, "Let me take you through this." He says, "Log into this portal and let me walk you through everything." And he says, at the end, he says, "Well, great." He says, "Let's go ahead and have you approve this." And I thought, why can't we do the same thing on real estate? So that's exactly what
it's a great idea, actually. Because you're right. You send a contract, you never know whether it's coming back or not.
Exactly. So we set it up now. We don't send any contracts. Mm-hmm. We basically recreate that moment just like we used to when we were meeting with people in person, and basically create the agreement right there live in the moment and walk them through it.
Right. And you can do the same thing with terms deals for our listeners who do terms deals. I just sent one out 3 days ago, Jerry, after a conversation with the sellers, got everything ironed out, talked to husband, talked to wife, sent out contract with addendum. That thing sat for 3 days. Now I didn't hear from them. Now I find out their brother talked them out of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
If I'd have been on the phone, that might not have happened. Just like you just said, I wrote it down, man. Loop. Okay. So we're going to probably do the same thing with pretty houses. All right. So, where are you? How are you locating all these deals? Because I know our listeners are wondering that. Well, you must have a massive marketing machine to do that.
Well, it's funny, Ron. I mean, as well as I do. You've been doing this a long, long time. That we every time we turn around, we're hearing another flash in the pan of a marketing method. But a lot of these different marketing method channels that we call them, they come and go. And just it's like with the RVM and the texting, now it's being so much more regulated on things. So, what's funny is over the last, it's been now going on probably close to 20 years now, we've been using direct mail for this whole time. And, in different varieties of things, we've been using direct mail, and that's still one of our biggest producers to date on this.
Postcards or letters or both?
A little bit of both. Majority of it is postcards. So we do that. We do pay-per-click, for Google as well. Mm-hmm. And we also, our letters are more focused towards our specialty list. Okay. So such as like probate, anything regarding more of a stronger specific motivation. That's where our letters are going more, where those lists are a smaller list typically. And then our big bulk ones are typically postcards.
So you go to people that have a need to sell or suspect they do, like foreclosures, like out-of-town owners. You mail to landlords?
We do landlords as well. Absolutely.
Good results with landlords?
Yeah, we do. It's funny. It's been even, I think we've had a better response here lately, even more so because of all, the delays in regards to people being able to evict people from properties. Mm-hmm. And they just, a lot of them want to be done with that, and they're dealing with, they really just don't want to deal with things. So we've been seeing an increase in that side of things there. Obviously, it's a little more management on our end in regards to dealing with those properties too, because we're taking on something that they don't want to deal with anymore. But
I assume you have an outside mail house doing your mailing for you.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And you just tell them what list you want to mail to. They help you get the list?
Yes. So we have one of our assistants that works with Ashley on things. Mm-hmm. They're constantly working on marketing every single week in regards to lists. They're pulling, scrubbing those lists, mm-hmm. making sure things are, again, one of the things, Ron, that we do, I think, differently than a lot of people will just pull a list and then let that list run on things for, quite a few drops. And we are constantly adjusting our list all the time. And I think that's one of the big reasons that we have the results that we do is we're tuning that all the time. You're
watching your numbers and you know where your results come from. And you're
100%. Yeah, we're watching the numbers every day, in fact, on that, Ron.
And look, I teach direct marketing and have for years and spent millions on mailing. And there's only one time that I would not suggest sequential mailings, and that's when you mail in some of these lists. People ask me that all the time. Hey, if I mail to a list and I don't get hardly any response once, I don't think mailing to them second time is going to help a bit. We only keep sequential mailing when we get response, and then we stop mailing until we don't get response, until it becomes a negative situation. But in these lists, I only mail to them once as well. Any list for that matter. There's too many lists.
There is, Ron.
Best ones. Yeah. All right. So what do you spend a month on mailing, Jerry?
We're typically spending around, just on the mailing side, about $15,000.
Yeah. On the other hand, though, I'm doing the math. You said 15 to 20 deals a month times an average of 10,000. That's a lot of money. So you can afford to spend 15,000, can't you? So the math works.
100%. Yeah.
Right. So
money comes out.
Yeah.
Another big thing to Ron too, that I think a lot of I see this with a lot of people I work with, a lot of my students and everything. People just do not put enough emphasis on the follow-up side of things.
All right, explain.
So our big thing that we are very good at is all the incoming leads that we are having come in constantly into our pipeline, mm-hmm. Into our CRM. And then, so many of those, we connect with a lot of them, but a lot of them are in a position where they're not ready to do anything at this time. They're testing the waters, or they're come in a position where we are not able to answer them live. And then goes into our, is then answered by a service that we have. And then we get into, obviously doing follow-up on that. So we're in a position where very aggressive on the follow-up side of things, where we have a set procedure for each acquisitions rep where they have to maintain certain follow-up procedures on each lead that comes in. And that lead is being followed up via a phone call and a text.
Okay.
And email.
And email, right. And what percentage of your deals would you say you get out of that follow-up, Jerry?
We probably get somewhere in the neighborhood of about 70% through some type of follow-up.
Say that again.
About 70%.
So if I don't do the follow-up, I lose 70% of my business. Is that what you're telling me?
That's pretty well what it comes down to. Now, the interesting thing, Ron, is a lot of times we still convert those people on the first call or maybe second call, but it's just the follow-up of connecting with them. That's where most people lose it right there. They just, it's like, I'm just going to go on with things, where they get in this, what I call this prejudgment of deals that come in, and just because the seller leaves a message and says, I want this for my property, we train our reps that it doesn't matter what they say.
Right. That's correct. Yeah. I've been teaching for a long time. There's an old marketing adage that 82% of the business comes through the second through the seventh contact with a prospect. And man, you're right on that. You're dead right on it. We used to run TV ads. Same thing. We have to keep following up with them. And our dream system does that. Our CRM is dreams. We furnish it to our students. All they got to do is set it up, and the leads are automatically put in there by our virtual assistant. So it ain't like it's a big deal. But you're probably getting more results out of the outbound calls on the follow-up than you are anything else. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we definitely do. I think that's one of the biggest thing there. And what's interesting too on that, Ron, is our sales team does not do cold calling. Our sales team is only working on the warm leads. And that's where I've seen that with a lot of my students that I've worked with too, where people will go out and they'll take their sales team doing cold calling. And I'm a big believer that's for VAs.
Yeah, that's certainly not for beginners, I can tell you that. And so you only talk to people that started by calling you.
Yes, they've initiated either calling us or some type of online submission.
Okay, well, that's good to know. All right, what else do you do besides mail letters to get people in the loop?
So we do the mail. We do obviously the postcards. We also turn around. We run ads on Google through the pay-per-click. That's another thing, and we also do Facebook as well.
Facebook paid ads?
Yes.
Okay. So that's not a huge marketing campaign you got going there. No. What percentage of deals come from the mailing?
We average for the last probably 10 years, as much as 72% of our deals come from direct mail.
Okay. And that's postcards and letters.
Yes. Yep.
Well,
we're and then like I say, Ron, and are very aggressive on our follow-up side of things. But that is a lot of people look at it and they go, man, we thought there was going to be this big complicated thing. And we said, look, we keep it very simple, but we're very good at what we do, and we're very aggressive on what we do.
Yes. And you have systems in place.
100%.
And you didn't start that way, did you, Jerry?
No.
I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back when you started. How many years did it take you to get to seven figures?
Oh, geez. Ron, I would think it probably, I was right at that cusp, and when just coming out of, it was probably in the early 2000s, but about 2005 in that realm of things before we got to that. But remember, at the same time, I went through the position where it was 2 years there that I didn't pretty well do much at all.
I got it. So again, you pretty much, after that 2 years was over, you pretty much started out with a bang, right?
Yes. Yeah, we went full blast on things. Yeah. I had to readjust again in 2008,
Oh, Why, did we have something happen in 2008?
Just a little hiccup.
Okay, you and I will swap horror stories on that one sometime.
Yeah. Mhm.
So,
I'm holding a lot of property during that time that I couldn't sell.
well, why sell it? Just hold it till the market comes back. All right. Well, listen, you went through a lot, but after you got cranked back up, did you net 7 figures that year?
Oh, no.
Huh?
No, not that, not that point. So,
Okay. All right. So what's your plan for next year? Because I know you told me you wanted to really grow your business.
yeah. So a big thing we're doing right now, Ron, is we are expanding our marketplaces more. In fact, we just had a meeting here last week. Ashley, my COO, and myself, we're going on really planning, laying out a game plan here for the new year. And our game plan is to roll out into really right now 2 new markets per quarter next year.
Per quarter.
Per quarter. Yeah.
And in reality, all that means, Jerry, is you start mailing to different places than you're mailing now.
Exactly.
Anything else is the same.
Yep. There's some different, setting the processes in place.
Yeah.
I mean, the good thing, Ron, is this. We've worked our asses off over the years here to build a good foundational operating system, solid processes.
Mhm.
Now we're looking at a position where we want to go ahead and
Sure.
expand that out more. And because now it's just a matter of really multiplying those efforts.
Yeah.
That's,
You have the people, you have the system. You just go to different places and not much else changes, except you might have to add a person or two.
exactly.
It's the same, right? So infrastructure is there. Why not do it?
Yep, that's what I said. We looked at that. We thought, let's do it and just make it happen. And we're definitely pressing forward with that. And we've already been working on new markets.
Some of the biggest wholesalers I know, Jerry, are in multiple markets like that.
Yep.
And we hang around people who do thousands of these things a year.
Absolutely.
In one city, that's for sure. All right. So listen, you've been around a while. I want you to tell me, what do you think is the biggest mistake that you've made in your business?
Ooh.
26 years.
Wow. I think one of the big things, Ron, that I look back of all these years is, and I know this is, you hear people say this all the time, but it's the truth. And that is to me, it's tied right into my thinking. And that is not thinking big enough. Thinking too small.
Yeah.
And a big thing behind that, Ron, thinking too small, is allowing other people to basically convince me that that's okay.
Steal your dreams.
Yep.
World's full of dream stealers, isn't it, Jerry? And
100%.
you take a look at most all of them, they're all broke. And they're trying to teach you how to get rich, aren't they?
Yeah. 100%.
I think not qualified. Yeah.
Big thing, Ron, is always and that crap will take so much out of you too. Quick on things.
Yeah. So I am guessing that you are a man that had a little hard time turning loose too. Am I correct?
Oh, 100%, Ron.
Okay. So how many years did it take you to figure out that you ain't all that important, Jerry? Somebody else can do all this crap too.
Took about 15 years.
About 15. Took me 20, man. Took me 20. I get the same thing. How can it possibly work out if I don't have my hands in every little thing? Yeah. All right. So we're running out of time here. So if you were to give our listeners one piece of advice, putting yourself back when you were starting, knowing what you know now, what would that advice be? I'm putting you on the spot because we didn't rehearse this, did we?
No, not at all. Wow. I
told you I was going to just ask you a few simple questions. All you got to do is answer them.
Yeah, absolutely, Ron. No, I like it. That's a lot better that way, man.
Yeah.
I was looking back on that side of things and I think one of the biggest things that I see people not doing and holds them back more than anything at all, and something on my end too, is what really comes down to one word that they lack: consistency.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That right there was a big problem for me for years.
Mm-hmm.
And I see that with a lot of people I work with. They get inconsistent with things, and then they go out, they get involved, start doing a rehab. They're doing all the work themselves. Marketing stops. Nothing goes on. All this type of stuff. That inconsistency, and you look at any business, if you're going to be successful with it, you got to have consistency in each department, and that cannot stop.
Yeah, and that means you got to quit chasing every little shiny object that comes your way and quit trying to change everything because you think you got something new. A big mistake a lot of people make is they quit doing what's working while they try to put something else in place.
Yeah, absolutely, Ron. Yes,
that's definitely a no-no in the world of marketing. We used to, when you're testing, you don't kill your thing that's working the most. All right, listen, I appreciate you taking the time. Do you have something, by the way, that you want to give away, anything like that while we're on here?
Well, I'll tell you, Ron, for one, I mean, anybody wants to reach out to me or anything like that, they can connect with me through one on Facebook. That's a great place to connect with me on my my personal page is pretty full on things on friends, but you can go to my business page. It's Jerry Green, REI, okay, on Facebook, or they can follow me on Instagram at the Jerry Green. Got great two places that jump there. Then also, if they go to my website, the website is the Jerry Green. There's a whole free video library in there. They can look at things, Ron.
All right. And if you're watching this, you know that I'm an advocate of the opposite of what Jerry does, and that is the pretty house business, beautiful homes in beautiful neighborhoods. So if you want to learn more about that, you can also go to thementorpodcast.com/green. That'll tell me you came through this podcast. There's a 90-minute free presentation on there that goes through exactly what we do and how we're making so much money for our folks. But what I want for you is that you learn the real estate business, folks, not just one little thing. And Jerry and I have had this conversation because I've been at this so long. I see so many people come in and so many of them go, actually. I don't really want someone to come in and don't do anything but wholesaling. I did that for a long time, or anything but rehabbing, which is the hardest way to make money there is in this business. Jerry will confess to that. Okay. I want you to become a transaction engineer. In other words, learn how to do anything with single family houses, make the most money, not go through the business with blinders on, because honestly, it's hard to find ugly houses without finding pretty ones and vice versa. So I do it all. In fact, I've just mailed some letters to find some cheap, ugly houses, but I focus on the pretty houses because of all of those benefits that you don't get when you're wholesaling, that I sometimes have a difficult time relaying to wholesalers who are making quite a bit of money, but they're not really building any wealth other than what they can take that money and do. I'd like for you to do it all. And I wished I could say I did it all when I started. I did not. It took me an awful lot of years to learn how to be a transaction engineer, as I call it. But the more you learn, the more you earn. And Jerry is providing one really good, important piece of that. Here's a guy that literally went through some really tough times, decided not to lay down and die, decided to move forward, got rid of all the obstacles, didn't listen to all the people trying to steal his dream, didn't whine because everything went wrong. And today it's on top of the world, and that world's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. You're a good example to all of those who really want to succeed, Jerry, and I appreciate you taking the time to come on here.
Oh, absolutely, Ron. No, thank you, my friend. I appreciate it.
Right.
I wouldn't be here where I'm at today if it wasn't for you.
Well, I'm just a messenger boy. You had to do all of the work. Well, I appreciate it, sir.
All right.
Thank you very much. See you soon.
All right. Thank you, Ron.
That's all for this edition of the Mentor Podcast. To connect with Ron and learn how you can attain financial freedom, as well as up-to-date strategies to grow and protect your wealth based on today's discussion, go to www.connectwiththementor.com.